welcome now author Steve Olsher.
Steve Olsher.
Career and reinvention expert, Steve Olsher.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve,
you very
so
much.
An entrepreneur, career development expert.
I am so pleased to have Steve Olsher here. He is a reinvention expert.
So the question I have for you is, what is your what?
I'm talking about discovering your what?
What is my what?
What is my what? What is your what?
My what?
What is the one thing that your soul is compelled to do?
What is your what?
Yeah! If you believe that one person has the power to change the world, I want you to say, I believe. I believe. And if you believe that you were born to do something amazing, I want you to say, I believe. I believe. And if you want to leave today's presentation with more money in your pocket, whiter teeth, and a better physique than when you first walked in that door, I want you to lower your expectations like a lot. Because Vision only gave me 30 minutes, which I'm honored to have, but there's only so much we can do in 30 minutes. Who wants to know the true secret of life? This is going to be interactive, people. Who wants to know the true secret of life? Yes, you do. Of course you do. This is the true secret of life. It's taken me a long time to figure this out. The secret of life involves understanding something that you absolutely love to do, something that you're good at, and identifying something that people will pay you for. And that is the true secret of life, because when you then find the place where the concentric circles in this Venn diagram overlap, that's where the magic happens. It's shown as dream job. You can call it whatever you want. But I can tell you that this is a lot like a tripod, because it requires all three elements for this to work, right? What happens with the tripod when you take out one leg? It falls over, right? Because you can have something that you absolutely love to do, and you can have something that you're good at, but if nobody pays you for it, you go broke. Now, you could also have something that you get paid exceptionally well for, and you're good at it, but if you've got no love for it, you're out the door. And don't get confused about something that you're good at being something that you're truly compelled to do. Because the reality is that you could be like the world's best filer. Like, they could hand you a pile of folders, and you could put those away in like alphabetical system, alphabetical order using the Dewey Decimal System in like no time flat. But that doesn't mean that that's what you're truly compelled to do. It just simply means that you have acquired skill. And there is a difference between having acquired skill and having done something for a period of time versus doing something that you are truly compelled to do and you have been put here on this earth in this lifetime to do. Now, again, it's taken me a long time to figure this out. But here's what I know, is that it all really boils down to being able to answer this key question, which is, what is your what? What is your what? What is that one thing that you are truly compelled to do? See, we all get caught up in sort of this conversation around passion, right? If I just have my passion, if I just do what I love, the money will follow. Bullshit. And you know that. It's not that simple. And the reason why the aptitude tests and some of the books kind of leave you with more questions than answers is because they forget a whole other part of the equation. And so you do have your gifts. And what I believe is that your gifts are a part of your DNA. They are in your blueprint. There is nothing that you can do about it. And if you get nothing more from this presentation today, here's what I want you to take away. Your what has chosen you. It is not that which you have chosen. For those with pens and papers, write that one down, because that is the God's honest truth. Your what has chosen you. It is not that which you have chosen. But then it also requires you to be very clear on the vehicle that you will use to share your gifts with the world. And perhaps most importantly, the people that you are most compelled to serve. And you have to be able to answer each part of this equation in order to be able to tell people, yeah, this is what my what is. And after having worked with thousands of people over the years, I can tell you that 98 to 99% of everyone who walks this planet has difficulty answering even one of these questions, getting to even one answer in terms of the three elements here, let alone two and all three for that matter. Very, very few people will be able to identify what their gifts are, the vehicle that they will use to share those gifts with the world, and the people that they are most compelled to serve. And that's not your fault. We just do a bad job of teaching people how to live. We teach them how to read and write and do some math, but we don't really teach people how to excel. And I didn't learn how to excel for most of my life until I had a huge wake-up call. And I'd like to share that with you now.
You know, man, my life has often felt like an 18-wheeler going downhill through the mountains without any brakes. I've created, closed, and currently operate multiple businesses. I've been on the brink of foreclosure not once, but twice. So by 2008, life was going really well. Business was great. Kids were getting so big. The wife and I had just celebrated 11 plus years. And then I got the call. And it was my mom. She told me that my stepfather, who had raised me since I was 10, lay dying. I went there immediately. The illness that had consumed his body for years had finally taken its toll. And as I held his hand, I had a profound vision that really shook me to my core. A vision of my own funeral. And as I lay in the casket, I could hear the words being spoken graveside. Here lies Steve Olsher. He dedicated his life to chasing the almighty dollar. And that's all that was said. And I honestly feel like my stepfather spoke to me through that physical connection. Holding his hand, he was saying to me, this is your inevitable fate if you do not change course. And he was imploring me to do something about it. And I immediately began to reinvent my life. I had to rid myself of the anchors that were dragging me down, both the people and the activities. And more importantly, I really had to honor who I inherently am. See, I believe that we each have one very specific, powerful gift to share. And I call that gift your what. So the question I have for you is, what is your what?
What is my what?
What is my what? What is your what?
What is my what?
What is your what?
What is the one thing that your soul is compelled to do?
The one thing you were meant to do.
And once you can answer that question, I promise you, everything else will fall into place. And once you begin pursuing your what with reckless abandon, it's amazing what happens. Things that used to bother you will carry a lot less weight. You'll be fired up to jump out of bed every morning, and there just won't be enough hours in the day to accomplish your objectives. There's really only two types of people. Those who meander through life and never really get to where they were predestined to go, and those who choose to live their passion. And choosing to live a life filled with passion is your key to shifting from being awake to being alive.
Now, that was from a movie I was honored to be asked to star in with Jack Canfield and John Gray and Marcy Shimoff called The Keeper of the Keys. None of that would have happened unless I had heeded what my stepfather was saying, what he was showing me, because in that moment as I held his hand, he was saying, you're at this fork in the road. I now call that fork in the road a yay-no moment. It's a fancy way of saying yes, no. You had a yay-no moment whether or not you chose to come here. That was a yes-no moment. And one direction leads you away from who you inherently are, and the other leads you towards who you were born to be. The key to being successful in life is continually stacking choices that lead you towards that objective and saying no to everything else. You have a yay-no moment right now. It's how you sit in that chair. It's how you breathe. It's what you ate for breakfast. It's how late you stayed up last night. Every single moment of every single day, you have a yay-no moment. He was showing me my inevitable fate unless I change course. He was saying, this is what's going to happen. He was saying that I know you have so much more to give. You have so much more to share. And he knew, because we had talked about it, that I wanted to have impact not only on those who share this lifetime with me, but also on those of lifetimes to come. But I had to change course. I had to heed those words. What would your Al say to you? Who in your life is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, you're playing small? Or tap you on the shoulder and say, what have you been doing? What would they say to you? And how would you answer? And how would you respond? That is the question. Because we've all had those moments where life shows up and this opportunity presents itself and we move in a divergent direction. Some people have a moment when somebody dies. Some people have it when maybe they get an illness. I hope it never comes to that for you, because right now you are sitting at that fork in the road. And as soon as I heeded that direction, that directive that I was being given, I then started putting pen to paper. Now, I had never written before, but I had some things that I thought might help other people, some tips and tools and strategies and shortcuts that I thought might be of service and benefit to others, so I started writing. I had never written before, and I can tell you as an author now, there was a big difference between writing and being a writer. And for all the authors in the audience, understand that unless you're a professional writer, you're just writing. I don't mean that in a harsh way. I mean that in reality and hope to help you move forward if you decide to share something with the world in written form. Now, that book was called Journey to You, a step-by-step guide to becoming who you were born to be. Couldn't get a publisher to touch it. Nobody knew who I was. So instead of self-publishing, I independently published. That's the term that I like. Went on to be named Self-Help Book of the Year of 2010. So take that, Mr. and Mrs. Publisher. Started something called the Reinvention Workshop, Reinvention Radio. After you have your what, you need to have the how, right? How do you then share that gift with the world? I've been online since 1993. Anybody remember CompuServe? We launched on CompuServe's Electronic Mall in 1993. I've been online a long time, but 20 years later, I sat there and I said, I still don't know anything about how this internet works. So I sought out people who really know. Started Internet Profits Live. Vishen shared the stage there with me back in April. But most importantly, it's given me the platform to create other books now where What Is Your What? Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do just came out. We went to #1 overall on Barnes & Noble. Take that, Bill O'Reilly. Take that, Stephen King. #1 overall. Hit #9 on the New York Times bestseller list. How many in the audience here knew who I mean, did anybody know who I am before this, just out of curiosity, show of hands? Anybody? Okay, so not enough of you. And so you can imagine what it took to do that, right? It's a lot of concerted effort to make that happen. But I can tell you that if you just simply heed what's within, that's when everything opens up for you. I now get to speak to high schools, colleges, you name it, and on morning shows. I mean, this was a morning show in Milwaukee. They had me on as a guest. When one of the co-hosts was out sick, they said, Steve, why don't you come in and co-host the show with us? Did that not once, but twice. Reality is, I've walked in your shoes, okay? Maybe not these shoes in particular, because ladies, I mean, I don't know how you ladies do that, to be honest with you. But I have sat where you have sat. I mean, believe me, when I started writing my first book, the self-help book, people were like, man, who are you to write a self-help book? You could damn well merely help yourself, you know? And I was like, hey, you're right. Who am I to write a self-help book? But I did it anyway. Pushed through, because that's simply what you have to do. But I have sat in your seat, looking up on stage and saying, I could probably do that. I have read books thinking, this is good, but, you know, I could probably contribute in a meaningful way as well. So in order to contribute, the key is understanding who you are. The Tao teaches us that knowing others is intelligence, but knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength, but mastering yourself is true power. So who are you? How are you naturally wired to excel? Your DNA is wired to excel in a very specific way. And I'd like to share an example with you.
My mama told me when I was young, we are all born superstars. She rolled my hair and put my lipstick on in the glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with
Right? If you believe that girl has a gift, I want you to turn to the person next to you and say, that girl's got a gift. Now I want you to turn to somebody else and say, you've got a gift. Yes, you do. So the question is, what is your what? Right? That's the question. And Phillips Brooks says, the ideal life is in our blood and never will be still. Sad will be the day for any man when he becomes contented with the thoughts he is thinking and the deeds he is doing, where there is not forever beating at the doors of his soul some great desire to do something larger, which he knows he was meant and made to do. Where there is not forever beating at the doors of her soul some great desire to do something larger, which she knows she was meant and made to do. So as you sit here today, you really have two choices. The two choices are, you might actually be living your what right now, but you've been fighting it for all these years, right? Maybe numbers are just your thing, and so you're an accountant. And for 20 years, you've just been doing numbers, right? But you think, God, there's got to be something else. But maybe in high school, you excelled in math. In college, you were a major in mathematician or whatever the major. I don't major in math. I don't even know what the math major might be. But you've had an accounting practice for 20 years, and all this time, you've just been fighting it. And if that's the case, quit fighting it. Just dig in. Do it as best you can and share it with as many as you possibly can. The other choice is you're nowhere near what your what is. You may not even be in the same country, right? I mean, it's not even you're not even close to what your what is. And if that's the case, then you simply need to start committing to figuring out exactly what it is. Now, I can tell you that there's three main reasons why people are not able to connect with what their what is. Number one, they don't go far enough back in their lives to reconnect with what their what is. Right? I can tell you unequivocally that at some point in your life, you were connected to your what. But then life happens and it throws you off path, and you start making distasteful compromises and settling for less. I mean, maybe you loved to paint. That was your thing. When you were a kid, you just loved to paint. And you had a favorite color, and your favorite color was blue. So all of your paint was blue. Well, your mama had a favorite color, and her favorite color was white. And all of her carpet was white. And one day, the two met. And it wasn't like this Reese's peanut butter cup moment of chocolate meat and peanut butter and everybody's happy. That blue paint hit the white carpet and you got yelled at and you buried that to the nether regions, never to be heard from by anyone, including you ever again. Number two, you might just be in flat out denial about what your what is. Just making excuses. There's no way that could be it. I don't see how I can make money doing that. People won't like if I'm doing this, that, and the other. You just might be in denial. And then number three, you may not be granting yourself time and permission to connect with what your what is. Whether it's meditation, a walk in the park, or if you're a nutcase like me and you find Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to be therapeutic where we try to choke people and break their limbs, then have at it. But whatever it is for you, grant yourself that time and grant yourself that permission. Now in the book, What is Your What? Discover the one amazing thing you were born to do. I've got 18 case studies. One of these is from Larry Winget, who's a personal friend and a 5 times New York Times bestselling author, etc. This is how he and I completed the equation together. And what we found is that Larry's gifts are a bold, clear, confrontational communication. Anybody know Larry? Few people. Okay, look up Larry. He's great. But if you know Larry, you know those are his gifts. The vehicle that he chooses to share his gifts with the world, various media. Now, he's a lot farther down the path, so he can be a lot less specific. My suggestion to you is to pick one vehicle and start with that, and then you can expand outwards. And the people that he is most compelled to serve are adults ready for radical change who want to massively improve their lives. Very specific. And this has empowered him to do just incredible things over the course of his career. And it all comes together in a very concrete summation statement, a guiding statement, if you will. And for those that are writing this down, I'd encourage you to write down this equation. And it all starts with 2. The first word is going to be to. And then a blank line in what, right? To what? To empower, to inspire, to entertain, whatever that might be for you. To what? How are you going to impact who? Right? In this case, adults ready for radical change who want to massively improve their lives. So to blank, what's the what? What's the action? And then who? And then by leveraging bold, clear, confrontational communication, what are your gifts? And then delivered via and the blank line, how will you share those gifts with the world? That's the question. And as you move forward and discovering your what, what's most important is to always keep this mantra in mind. Now, we all have different mantras. I mean, I've got mine on my arm here, which says, let love rule. That's my mantra, my guiding statement. Another one to think about is that your what always has to be bigger than your butt, right? Not talking about your butt, but I used to have J-Lo and Kim Kardashian up there, and the women got mad, so I changed it to baby's butt. So, you know. Evidently, everybody likes a baby's butt. So there you go. But this is what you have to think about as you move forward. Is your what bigger than your butt? And it always has to be if you're going to have massive impact as you move forward. Zig Ziglar said, you were born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. And that is so true. And it all begins by having a plan of action. Now, John Wooden, UCLA coach, very famous. I know Lee referenced him yesterday. One of the things that I love about Wooden is that he was able to get teenagers fired up about this big, huge goal, which is to win the national championship. Now, you know, if you got a group of teenagers, you can barely get them to sit still for 2 minutes, let alone think about something that might happen 5 or 6 months down the line. So what he did is he broke it down into very specific steps by identifying the ultimate objective. The ultimate objective being to win the national championship. And in order to win the national championship, you have to win every game in the tournament. In order to get into the tournament, you have to win enough games during the regular season. In order to win enough games during the regular season, you have to win enough halves of that game. And in order to win enough halves of that game, you have to outplay your opponent on this play. Now, that's something that a teenager can understand. A teenager can understand that this play right here, right now, will impact whether or not we win the national championship. So that's the question for you, is what is your ultimate objective? Now, that can be fluid, that can change. But for you right now, what is that ultimate objective? And how do you break it down into baby bite-sized steps that you can begin with today? And what I want you to really think about is how will you feel if you don't pursue your what? If you're having the same conversations in the mirror 3 or 5 years from now. Now, I can tell you a lot of excuses pop up in these conversations when I work with people. You know, what are some of your excuses that have prevented you from sharing and discovering and monetizing what it is that you are truly compelled to do? Just shout them out. Like some of the things, is it knowledge? Not the right team? No time? No skills? No money? Exactly. I mean, we all make these excuses. It happens. It's just the way we're naturally wired to live. I mean, we love to focus on everything that's wrong with the world as opposed to everything that's right. And I can tell you that I'm not, downplaying what those excuses are, but I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. And we all have our acronyms for fear. I mean, you've heard a lot of different acronyms over the years. Well, mine is forget everything about reality. Because, things never go as good as you hope or as poorly as you think they might. It's always going to be somewhere kind of right in the middle. But what I do know is that no matter what those excuses are, they are surmountable. What I am afraid of is that when I go to my next life and meet my Creator, in whatever form that Creator might be, that the Creator says to me, Steve, I gave you a gift. And you chose to keep that gift within. And you did nothing with that gift when you could have helped so many do so much. And because you selfishly kept that to yourself, you go that way. And that way looks real unpleasant. Fire, brimstone, the whole nine. As opposed to meeting my Creator saying, Steve, I gave you a gift. And you took that gift and you ran and ran and ran with it. And shared that gift with as many people as you possibly could. And because you selflessly shared of yourself with others, you go this way. And this way looks real pleasant. Clouds, harps, bounties of delight. So again, whatever it is that your biggest excuse might be, whatever it is that you're afraid of, it's surmountable, and I guarantee you it pales in comparison to mine. So the next steps, you have to gain an understanding of how you're naturally wired to excel. It's so important to identify what your what is, to create that powerful step-by-step plan for moving forward, and to become very clear on what your legacy is. See, I believe that life starts over right now.
You are good when there's nothing good in me. You are love on display for all to see. You are light when the darkness closes in. You are hope, you have covered all my sin. You are peace when my fear is crippling. You are true, even in my wandering. You are joy, you're the reason that I sing. You are light, in you death has lost its sting. I run into your eyes, the riches of your love will always be enough. Nothing compares to your embrace. Light of the world, forever reign. So you are more than my words will ever say. You are Lord, all creation will proclaim. You are here, in your presence I made whole. You are God, all whole else I'm letting go. I run into your arms, the riches of your love.
No matter where you start the race, no matter what happens in the middle of the race, the only thing that matters is how you finish the race. Because life starts over when? Right now. And life starts over again when? Right now. All I want you to understand at this point is that this is your time. This is the beginning of your journey. You have the opportunity to move forward and to do anything and everything that you want. In the words of Andrea Robinson, one of my coaching clients from the Circle of 10, she said it took her almost 60 years to realize that she is the solution to someone else's problem. You are the solution to someone else's problem. And it doesn't matter what the size of the stage is. Even a pebble dropped in just a large body of water will create ripples that eventually reach the shore. You know, Les Brown said, most people fail in life, not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. And some people don't aim at all. Your job is to commandeer life like a sniper and aim for the center of the bullseye. This is your time. I want you to get up, get out of your seats, find as many people as you can, give them a big hug, and I want you to tell them this is your time, right here, right now.